Welcome back to my channel. So today I got for you guys Fox News clip. Florida Lieutenant Governor issues bold warning on possible Mamdani win. Let me know your thoughts in the comment below. Do you think he's gonna win, and do you think it's just he's gonna issue in nothing but socialist or communist ideology? And do you think that's gonna be the downfall for New York? So let's go ahead and jump into the video.
New data revealing 14% of Americans have favorable views of communism. That includes more than a quarter of people 30 years or younger, and strong liberals who see communism in a positive light. Our next guest has seen the devastating impact of communist leadership firsthand during U.S. Army deployments in the Middle East and South America. Florida's Lieutenant Governor Jay Collins joining us now. Lieutenant Governor, thank you for being here. It's worth noting for our viewers, you are a highly decorated Special Forces Army combat veteran. You've seen this up close and personal. When you see numbers like this about, favorable rates of communism, what do you say?
Well, I don't think it's altogether surprising. That's why we've taken the stance we have in Florida. Under Governor Ron DeSantis, we've pushed back. And in fact, I ran a bill a couple of years ago that mandated truth in education on communism for K through 12, because we've seen this growing. They have taken over the education system, they being the far left, and they've started to indoctrinate our children. That's what happens. Doesn't surprise me at all. It's unfortunate. It always happens this way.
Are you concerned, Lieutenant Governor, that...
It kind of reminds me of the movie 1984 when the children, they like narc on people, because, you have to with the government, because, Big Brother is watching you like 24/7. And to me, that's due to the indoctrination that they're given to believe this, that they have to snitch on people for the good of the country, which is horrible,
Of the voters, particularly those that may be younger, 30 and younger here in New York City, are about to elect a self-avowed socialist in Zoran Mamdani.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking. Of all the cities in our nation, why the city that never sleeps, New York City? It's heartbreaking to see that we're going to have to learn this lesson firsthand, but altogether surprising, certainly not. Heartbreaking, absolutely. You're going to see an exodus come into Florida because of this. People with wealth, people with opportunity are going to leave one more time. And I guess the last thing you can say about that is, don't New York or Florida. Don't take your doctrine and your indoctrination and bring it down here. We're very free. We stand for freedom and liberty, and we want to keep it that way. So if you're going to come to Florida, you better start espousing how we do things here.
Lieutenant Governor, to that point, we want to show our viewers, when you look at poverty rates in socialist communist nations, it's 91% in Venezuela, in Cuba, communist country, 89%, North Korea, 60%, although I think that number might even be low. It's hard to get information there.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's very hard to get information from North Korea because they're like, but just talking to the defectors, knowing how North Korea is, that's cray-cray. But looking at the numbers, Venezuela is at 91%, Cuba is at 89%, North Korea, from what we know, is 60% in the poverty rates. And this is what happens when you issue this type of, program. When you try to issue this type of governance like socialism or communism, it doesn't work. Like I said, in theory it does, but not in real world scenarios, Unfortunately, that's just how it is.
When you look at things like, the poverty rate in Cuba under communism, obviously Floridians are fully well aware, but yet you're having to lean in and push back on it. I don't understand that.
Yeah, it's pretty shocking. It truly is. I feel like we have to relearn all the old lessons. But one of the things that was nuanced in our communism education bill was that we wanted to have survivors, people who lived through this, be a part of developing the curriculum. We want them to understand and share exactly what it is that's important for the youth to understand about how socialism, how communism happened across their nations prior. These are survivors of communism in Cuba, in Venezuela, in China, other nations that were there, and frankly, they just want to push back because they came to America to live in freedom and live and love what we have. It's sad to see this happen again, but we have to push back. We have to use our voice, and we can't stand on the sideline quiet anymore. We have to use our words, and we have to keep this travesty from happening in any other city. We can still make a difference in New York City. Mamdani does not have to happen.
Well, it looks like it may, actually. We are watching that, but we give kudos to you, Lieutenant Governor, for pushing back and your leadership. You talk about using your voice. What about using your voice to jump into the gubernatorial race in Florida? Have you made any decision on whether or not you might run as well?
No, I appreciate that question. So, as I've said all along, this is a very big decision. I'm kind of tired of politicians stepping in and making it a ego-driven thing. This is a wide-ranging discussion. I wanted to make sure my family was good, the people around me, my community, and then I wanted to make sure that my leadership style, which is very much hands-on, in your face, on the ground, leading from the front, was good for the state of Florida. We've gone around all over the state in our 67 counties and had conversations. God gave us 2 ears and one mouth for a reason. And I wanted to see what was working, what wasn't working. But here's what I found out. And it's very simple. People want leadership. If you're going to be the man after Governor DeSantis, you better be able to put points on the board. They don't want people who just talk and talk on Fox News. They want people who walk and do things. And we've really finalized our choice, but now we're walking through this and deciding what we're going to do, how it's going to play out. And I would say stay tuned, and we'll have information here in the next couple weeks, I think, maybe. But more to follow. How's that?
I take that as that's not a no. That's an open door for a possible run. Lieutenant Governor Jay Collins, thank you for joining us and speaking out against.
Okay, so you've seen that, you heard that. And so now we're going to go ahead and jump into the story, because I wanted to premise it with that video, because it will make a lot more sense once you hear the rest of the story. So this is from the New York Post, because you heard the warning that he was giving. So nearly 1 million New Yorkers ready to flee New York if Mamdani becomes mayor, possibly igniting the largest exodus in history poll. And this was published today. Hundreds of thousands of New Yorkers are prepared to bolt from the Big Apple if socialist candidate Zoran Mamdani wins Tuesday's mayoral race, potentially setting the stage for the largest population flight in U.S. history. And an alarming new poll warned early Monday. Around 765,000 people of the 8.4 million residents who call New York City home are preparing to leave, with about 9% of the New Yorkers sharing that they would definitely leave the city if Mamdani is elected the 111th mayor. In the Daily Mail reported, citing a survey conducted by JL Partners. If those residents were to leave, it would be equal to the position of Washington, D.C., Las Vegas, or Seattle fleeing the city. Another 25% of New Yorkers, about 2.12 million, said that they would consider packing up and leaving. Among high earners, 7% of those making over $250 a year said that it would definitely flee. Poll results highlighted widespread unease about the 34-year-old assemblyman taking over City Hall, warning that a mass departure could have severe economic consequences nationwide. If anywhere near the number actually left, the economic impact would be seismic, pollster James Johnson told the outlet. Older New Yorkers, Staten Islanders, and while voters are the most likely to say they would pack up and go. When asked to sum up what Mamdani's New York would look like, responses called it a disaster, hell, and cover your ears, kids, a ish hole. He added, men were more likely than women to say they'd leave. 12% of men and 7% of women say they're sure to move, with roughly a quarter of each considering it. Voters ages 50 to 64 showed the strongest desire to flee, with 12% certain and 33% weighing a move, according to the poll. By race, 13% of white New Yorkers and 11% Asian residents say they would definitely leave. State Islanders voters led the stampede, with 21% saying they'd go and another 54% considering it. In Manhattan, 6% say they'd flee and 20% are unsure. In Brooklyn, 8% and 18%. The Florida Florida, and Tennessee have emerged as top escapes destination thanks to low income taxes and property taxes. At least 1.9 million voters are expected to vote in the race, topping the 1.5 million who voted when Republican Michael Bloomberg defeated Mark Green in 2001, and believed to be the highest Big Apple turnout since 2.5 million headed to the polls in 1969 to elect liberal John Lindsay. As of Sunday night, when early voting ended, 735,317 New Yorkers had flocked to the polls. Mamdani held a 6.6 lead over the former governor Andrew Cuomo, with 72 hours left before the election, his narrowing margins since July. A new Allison poll released Saturday shows Mamdani at 40.6%, followed by Cuomo 34% and Republican Curtis Silwa I hope I said it right, at 24.1%. However, the latest Real Clear Politics average still puts Mamdani comfortably ahead by 14.5 points, keeping him firmly on track to become New York City's next mayor. So, I don't know. I think that their economy would falter if all the millionaires and billionaires left. And it's like, so, Mr. Mamdani, question for you. If the richest people left New York and your plan was to charge them, right, to cover all these freebies you're trying to do, who are the next people you'd be charging if there's no more millionaires and billionaires to charge?
Well, we're waiting.
Yeah, it's going to be the average, middle class person they're going to be charging next. And those people are not going to like that. And if they flee, then who's left? You got it. Probably the poor people. And they're going to be really upset because they're not going to be able to garner any of their wishes. And that's only if it's even possible to do that, because Kathy Hochul said that the wish list that he had, she would have to prove stuff like that, and there's no way she was doing that. So it's going to be very interesting. This timeline is coming out more and more interesting. But you guys let me know your thoughts in the comment below about what your thoughts are about Mamdani and people fleeing, and where do you think they're going to go. And Avi, they're going to probably take their politics with them. It's just going to ruin it for the rest of us. But yeah, you guys let me know what your thoughts are. I want to thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Till next time, guys.